So it's been a while since the last ban list, and everybody agreed on the fact that tier elements and Spright were just no longer what they used to be before. Tier elements lost countless cards, and Spright only really lost one card, which is Spright Elf. Although, to be fair, it was a key component to the deck, so let's not pretend like it was a small nerf. Spright Elf honestly did everything you could ask for, so revive back monsters for more interruptions, extenders, or a follow-up for next turn. The card had utility on any turn on the game, making the deck really good to be able to make a comeback on the grind. Not to mention that the effect to protect your monsters from being targeted by card effects is really nasty. And of course, the card ended up being played in like 20 billion decks because it was literally that good. Anyways, we can all agree on the fact that Spright was kind of worse than tier elements before the ban list, but at the same time, the ban list was kind of harsher on tier elements than it was on Spright. Now, with that being said, is Spright still worth playing right now despite all the circumstances and all the new cards and all the new decks that are being played right now? This is an open-ended question that can't really be answered with a simple yes or no because we have to define a bunch of things first. So first of all, Spright could refer to several things, such as the pure deck or just the engine. Second, to which extent are we expecting Spright to be viable? Are we building a Spright deck with the intent of winning a whole YCS or just doing well at locals? I'll say this now, I do not believe that the optimal build for the deck is the pure build, but I still believe it's a viable option if you know exactly what you're doing. Unfortunately, you can't really have it all. You can't really make a big board, have a bunch of hand traps, and have a crazy follow-up, and be unaffected by board breakers anymore. Just like with KASHTIRA, it's a mid-range deck, so you kinda have to pick your poison and just accept to lose to something at the end of the day. If you go for the sprint route, you might actually make a big board, but then you might lose to Nibiru, which is a little risky. And also, because of the fact that Elf got banned, it's first of all harder to make a Toad because you can't really revive back the second Swap Frog after you foolish it with the first one. And also, you lose one negate on your opponent's turn because you can't revive back the Toad after you negate something with it. This is like catastrophic. You lose a negate, you lose recursion, and you lose an extender. That means that if you really want to make a Toad and actually make a big board, then you have to rely on cards like Bujin Ki-Ashima, which I think are a little too obscure. And the card is still good and everything, but you're going to be committing a lot in order to do not that much. I think the best and most optimal way to go if you're playing Spright now is to go first and try to set up Mannequin Cat and maybe use some nice floodgates. But in order to achieve that, you have to deck build very specifically to beat your opponent's decks, and that is something that we kind of call Silver Bullet deck building. If you main deck cards like End of Anubis or Testudo or Aradnemen or something, or Thunder King Ryo, then sure, your deck is going to be good when you play against those decks, but outside of those matchups, your deck is going to be a little worse. Going second though, I think Spright has a lot of nice options because of Ninja Shadow Mosquito so that you can OTK your opponents even through like a big board of defense position monsters. You could also play runic cards, or in that case it would be Spright cards in a runic deck. If you do that, you don't really need a normal summon, so you can just cut the Nimble Beaver, and you can also play Lava Golem or Sphere Mode in the main deck. That again makes going second really good because you already have some nice board breakers and some OTK tools in the form of Ninja Shadow Mosquito. And if you go first, you have the runic cards that allow you to draw a bunch of cards, and you can summon Hyperia to draw more cards, etc. And because of the fact that you're playing board breakers and not hand traps, you don't really have to play into the 2 triple tactic cards. Another really cool build that I actually encountered at YCS Las Vegas was the KASHTIRA Spright deck. The restriction to only allow you to summon Xyz monsters really doesn't matter because you're not really going into a Link monster at the end of their combo anymore, so if you can only go into Gigantic, it really isn't the end of the world. Speaking of which, Gigantic is still just as good as ever because you can still summon your blue or jet and then get yourself the red, carrot, or smashers or starters, and starters can actually be the follow for next turn. And while we're on the topic of mixed decks, have you guys ever heard about Spriggan's Spright? The new support made the deck really nasty, and it's actually the best deck to play Smashers. Ironically, it's not even Spright. In the Spriggan's deck, Smashers summons a monster from the deck, or revives back a Theron from the grave, or banishes a card your opponent controls. Imagine ashing a Smashers. Nobody has ever done that against Spright, but they can actually do it against Spriggan's. But honestly, if you're really trying to play pure Spright, you can still do that. Just remember all the tools that you have at your disposal because the deck is really tricky to build. You do not care at all about the graveyard, so try to abuse cards like Dimension Shifter and Gravekeeper's Inscription while you can. And again, try to do everything in your power to assure that you have a way to play on your next turn, because otherwise you can get blown out and not have a chance to play. In the end, I still believe that Spright is worth playing. It just depends on what build you're trying to go for and how much experience you have with the deck. Anyways, that's all I had to say for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think about Spright? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.